Picking the right spouse is so crucial. So how do you know she's the one? There's two types of women we could marry, and I just wanted to talk about them real quick. The first one's described in Proverbs 27:15 through 16. Here's what it says. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as a constant dripping on a rainy day. Stopping her complaints is like trying to stop the wind of trying to hold something with greased hands. That is a bad choice. And then there's another passage of scripture. It's Proverbs 31:10 through 12. Here's what it says about that type of a wife. It says, a wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. So this is why choosing a spouse is so crucial. You don't want the drippy rain. You do want something that's more valuable than any financial gain you could ever have on this earth. So it's not something we should take lightly. And this isn't to condescend against women by the way of opening it up that way. It's just to say that there is a wife of good value is worth more than rubies. Just think about that. So here's 8 things to know she's the one. Number 1, she sees the best in you, not the worst. You know, you're flawed. I don't know if you know that. Not me, I'm good. No, we're all flawed. We all have things that are good about us. We all have things that we wish were different. And I tell you, my bride sees the best in me. And because of that, I walk a little taller. In fact, sometimes she sees things that I don't think are real. But it makes me want to be that. And when your wife sees the best in you and makes you want to be the best version of you, it makes you put the effort to be the man that you should be. And not the other way. You know, when people see the worst in you, it makes you want to not even try. And my friend, a successful marriage takes a lot of effort. And if you're defeated and not trying, it is not going to lead to a fruitful life. Number 2, prayer. You know, James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. You know, when we're trying to decide what to do, which is such a major decision of our life, we need to ask God for wisdom. Too often we make decisions with our eyes or with what we think is right. And God will reveal to you because He says He will. Ask Him. Number 3, make sure you're equally yoked. So a yoke is what you put across 2 oxen when they're pulling. Equally yoked means that if you are a Christ follower, they should be a Christ follower. It means that when you yoke things, you are putting them together. And here's the thing. A yoke back in the day, that was 2 oxen, right? And it went over the 2. And if one's pulling hard and one's pulling the opposite direction, you're not going to really get a lot done. It's the same thing in marriage. Too often I've seen people think they can change someone. And this is not a recipe for a good marriage. And here's this hint. Do not try to change your wife. It does not end well for anyone. God is about the business of changing you. And so when you are looking for marriage, if she's the one, you want to make sure that you're equally yoked. Number 4, are they a learner? Here's what I mean by this. Are they someone that's constantly learning and growing? Because, my friend, you are going to change a lot in your marriage as a person and as a couple. And when you start, it's not that like when you start marriage, you're bad at it. But let me tell you, when you start marriage, you're bad at it. It's something we all learn. And are you dedicated to the learning process? You know, there's books on communication. There's coaching. There's counseling. There's all sorts of things. And you want to make sure that the person that you're marrying is one that is dedicated to learning the process of learning. Because we are Christ followers, we are constantly in a process of learning and growing. See, sanctification, which is the process of becoming more like Christ, is a lifelong practice. And it's one that God's constantly teaching us, and we're growing. And we all can grow. But if we do not have a posture of wanting to learn, we don't learn. Have you ever had someone that does the same mistake over and over and over? I mean, I've been one of these people. And those are stuck patterns. See, there's sometimes people have a stuck pattern of their whole life. They're not looking at the mistakes we make and what can I learn from that? Because we all are going to make a lot of mistakes. But the key is that we learn from them. All right, number 5, you must have peace. See, Colossians 3:15 says that let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body, you are called to peace and be thankful. Oftentimes we don't pay attention to this peace that often. But really, I think that's often how God directs us, as we have peace. So I'm not talking about attraction in this moment. I'm assuming you're attracted to them. I'm not talking about those butterflies. I'm talking about peace. Peace can be present in hard times and good times. Thank the Lord. And peace is how God often will guide and direct you. So if you do not have peace, she's not the one. Number 6, how does she treat other people? I'm going to assume she treats you great. In fact, I was thinking back on when my wife and I were dating. I was giving her the best version of Zach. And she was giving me her best version. That should be a given. If they're not treating you well, they're not the one. I hope that I don't need to say that in this video. But really, pay attention to how she treats people that she has nothing to gain. This is not just marriage advice. This is friend advice. This is all. Look at how people treat people that they have nothing to gain. Do they treat them poorly? Because here's the thing. My closest friends, it's something I guard against. I don't let people become my friend until I watch how they treat other people. Because I know eventually I will get that same treatment. 1. Number 2, you become who you spend the most time with. And you are going to spend the most time with this person out of anyone on the planet. Because hopefully you want to be around them. And man, you don't want to become a jerk. So if she's unkind to people that she has nothing to gain from, she is not the one. Please run. Number 7, I wish we talked about much more. See, husbands don't talk about this one enough. But it's the reality of marriage, my friend, and please get this right now before you walk down the aisle. Are you willing to give up your life for her? See, before we get married, we can have selfish reasons of liking someone. You know, I first started talking to my wife because I thought she was attractive, right? I thought she was pretty. That's not the basis for deciding whether to marry someone or not. But they were selfish reasons. They were, did I enjoy being around them? That's not bad in that moment. Like, do you like being with the person? If you don't, she's not the one, right? Those are things. But once you get married, my friend, selfishness disappears. As a man, we have very distinct instructions. Ephesians 5:25, and I'm just going to read them to you real quick. It says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. This is what we're called to do. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give up your life? And like the total man thing is like, oh yeah, I'd die for her. I'm not talking about physically running in crossfire. That, honestly, is easier. What I'm talking about is, are you willing to sacrifice yourself? Are you willing to lay down your wants and desires for her wants and desires? Are you willing to consider her before yourself? That is what it means to lay down our life. In fact, look at what Jesus did. What it's calling us to there. Jesus left heaven to enter in and become a baby, a helpless baby. Live out our life of a painful existence in some instances, submitting to a mother and father when he's fully God and fully man, like submitting to the cross and to death, bearing shame, bearing all these things. That is what we're called to as husbands. And if you're not willing to do that for her, she's not the one, or you're not ready. And that's okay just to be honest about. But once that knot is tied, that's your role. Future videos coming about that. All right, number 8. You've been through premarital coaching. See, it's too often we rush into these things. You can do a lot of these things on your own in your own evaluation with God. But premarital coaching, it really helps with deciding whether this is a process to continue. See, as humans, we avoid what's uncomfortable, right? And even when you've been married a long time, what happens is you learn what things are sticky conversations and will cause an argument, and our tendencies to ignore them. But premarital coaching helps to talk about things that you normally might avoid. How many kids do you want? Sex, what are your expectations for it? Holidays, whose family are you with? Whose family are you not with? Chores, money, learning to communicate, learning to speak, and learning to listen. 2 very different things. So there's so many more things that premarital coaching will help you discuss. And in this section, what I really want to lean in on is you're not looking for sameness, but you are looking for what things you are willing to surrender for them and what you're not. What you're not willing to budge on. Like, it's a deal breaker if your heart's desire is to have kids and their heart's desire is to never have kids. That's something that you really should discuss. You know, it's a deal breaker if you want to bring your kids up in a Christian home and they don't want anything to do with faith. These are things that happen in that premarital coaching. You know, even the idea of being a Christ follower nowadays can be muddied. One person can think it's a dedicated life to Christ, and another can convinced that's going to church on Sunday, the end. Like, those are conversations that you uncover in coaching. And I really think it's a crucial process, not just like a formality to get married, but it really helps to determine. Because you have assumptions, and so do they. And it's in coaching where those kind of get shattered. And I've talked to many couples that have had a better first year of marriage because they went through this coaching and discussed some of those things early on. Have a great day, and I hope she is the one, my friend.